Muse for you, awesome websites without code.
Hey, what's up, Muser, and welcome to day 11 of building a chef website in Adobe Muse. Today we're on tablet breakpoints, so I'll click on day 11 tablet breakpoints within the course folder. So for the assets, we have the tablet mobile menu button because we're going to be adding a tablet and mobile menu to the website. We have the day 11 tablet breakpoints PNG, and we have the tablet version completed here as well. So I'll go ahead and double click on day 11 tablet breakpoints. And for today, we're going to add the 1280 breakpoint, the 960 breakpoint, and the 848 breakpoint. We're going to adjust the footer on the 960 breakpoint, and we're going to add the tablet and mobile menu on the 840 breakpoint. So let's get started. I'll go back to the course folder, and here I'll click on the chef website starting file .muse. So I'll go ahead and double click, and I'll double click on the home page. So in yesterday's tutorial, we created a one-to-one fixed width breakpoint. So we're going to go ahead and revert it back to the 1600 fluid width breakpoint. So I'm going to right click on the breakpoints bar, and I'm going to select fluid width. So the fluid width check mark is checked. And I'm going to make sure that the page expansion buttons are pointing outwards. So here we can see the arrow is pointing outwards, and this arrow is pointing outwards as well. And then again, I'll right click on the breakpoints bar. I'll go to breakpoint properties, and I'll change the breakpoint width to 1600 and select enter. Okay, and just like that, we're back to the 1600 fluid width breakpoint with a minimum width of 320. All right, so the website should look like this. We have the header with the logo and the menu. We have section 1, we have section 2, section 3, section 4, section 5, and section 6. And just to make sure that we're using a fluid width breakpoint, let's go ahead and go to File, Preview Page, and Browser. And we can make the browser width fairly large. And if we notice, all the elements are pinned to the left and the right side of the browser, letting us know we're using page expansion with a fluid width breakpoint. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with adding the breakpoints. And for this, it's a bit of improvisation or just seeing what works as we're adding breakpoints. And if you do need to check your work, and I might do this myself, you can go ahead and go into the Finder. And for the day 11 tablet breakpoints, I'll double click in the folder, and we have the tablet version completed. So I'm actually going to open this now so I can reference it as I'm adding the breakpoints. Because I did this, I prepared this for the course, I might need to reference it and see what I did on different breakpoints, because it is a process to make sure that elements are correctly placed on different breakpoints and that the responsive pinning is set correctly on different breakpoints. So the first breakpoint we're going to add is the 1280 breakpoint, and we can use the breakpoint scrubber tool right here to simulate the browser width. So if I go down to, let's say, section 3, the recipe section, and I resize the browser, we can see it's still good as I'm resizing, and we're at 1300. This is the 1300 mark right here, and right about here I can see it's getting a little bit tight. So I'm actually going to add a breakpoint here just for reference, to let me know, okay, this is where the website gets kind of tight, and I don't really want to work with the website too much on this breakpoint because it's really tight there. And once we get here, we can see the elements go off the browser or go off the page there. So I'm going to set a breakpoint at 1280, and we're also using the Google Resizer references. So 1280 is one of the breakpoints that is used in the Google Resizer. So instead of using the breakpoint scrubber here, I could create a new breakpoint, but I want to be exact and create a 1280 breakpoint. So to do that, I'm going to right click on the breakpoints bar, click on Add Breakpoint, and I'm going to set the breakpoint width to 1280. Okay. And there we have the 1280 breakpoint. And the only thing we're going to change on the 1280 breakpoint is the responsive pinning for the good food element and the chef card. And remember, we grouped the elements, so it's really easy to change the properties of all of these elements. So I'm just going to click on Good Food, go to Responsive Pinning, and pin it relative to the left. And I'm going to click on the chef card and pin it relative to the right. So as I resize the browser, those elements will just go towards the center of the browser because they're pinned responsively from the left and the right. If I were to leave it pinned responsively in the center, so I'll undo what I just did, and I use the Breakpoint Scrubber, which is this tool right here, and I resize, we can see that as I get lower within the width of the browser, that those elements get cut off and go off the page. So by pinning responsively to the right and the left, we ensure that those elements move in towards the center of the browser. So again, I'm going to select Good Food, go to the responsive pinning, set to the left, and I'm going to click on the chef card, go to responsive pinning, and pin to the right. Perfect. All right, so now let's resize the browser, and looks good, looks good. And I'm going to go ahead and add a breakpoint at the 960, because again, that's another Google Resizer breakpoint, and it kind of makes sense for this website as well. So I'm resizing, and we can see the text goes off the page. And actually, that's another thing we can do. We can pin this text relative to the right. So I'll select the About Us text, go to the responsive pinning, and set it to the right. And let's just see how this section looks. So I'll resize using the Breakpoint Scrubber, and looks good. The other thing I want to do is set this image to responsive width and height, so it gets smaller as well as I'm resizing the browser. So I'll select this image, and for the resize option, I'll set it to responsive width and height. So let's see how that looks. I'll resize, the image gets smaller, and looks good. All right. And I'm going to set the nutrition text here. I'm going to pin it to the left. So let's see how that looks. Yeah, perfect. Yep, that looks good. So we can see elements get a bit cut off, and we're going to work with that in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and add the 960 breakpoint. So I'll go to the breakpoints bar. I'm going to right click and click on Add Breakpoint. And then here I'll set it to 960. And there we can see the elements. So what I noticed initially, because I don't want this image doesn't have enough space to look good within the 960 breakpoint. So I'm going to right click and select Hide in Breakpoint. So we don't need that image there for the 960. And also this image, I'm going to hide it as well. Or actually, I'm just going to resize it to be about there. So it's just a bit smaller, and that looks better. And we also notice that these panels go off the page. So this is where I'm going to use the page expansion tool here. So let me just go to the layers panel, and actually I'm going to go to Object and select Unlock All on Page to make sure I can select the background elements as well. So I noticed that these panels don't fit. So I'm going to select the Art Blog background rectangle, and we notice here we have the vertical move handle. So here I'm going to click, hold, and drag, and just drag down the website, just like that. And now I'm going to select the background of section 3 and just bring it down, just like that, until it's flush with the top of section 4. Perfect. All right, and then I'm going to take this panel and just bring it down here. So we actually need a bit more space. So let me select the section 4 rectangle, use the vertical move handle, and make it a bit taller. And let me reference the website so I can see the exact height of the rectangle. So I'll go to the 960 breakpoint, and this rectangle, the height is 1700. So let me go back here, and I'll just use the transform panel. I'll set it to 1700, and perfect. And then I'll use the vertical move handle and bring that down. Looks good. So now I'll just reposition the last panel at the bottom, and I'll select these two. I'll hold down Shift to select both, and hold down Shift so that they don't move horizontally, and just align it to the center there. All right, perfect. So now I have those 3 panels. They fit nicely on the 960 breakpoint, and I'll do the same for the Art Blog section. So just as a reference, I'm going to see how tall this rectangle is. It's 1600 pixels in height. So I'll go back to Muse, select the R blog rectangle, go here to the height and set it to 1600. Okay, and then I'll select this rectangle here in the background, and I'll just use the vertical move handle to bring down all those elements. Perfect. So I'll bring down the View All button. Down here, I'll bring down this panel, and I'll select both of these panels and center them just like that. And I'll make sure that these elements are also in the correct position. So I'll reference this site here, and there we go. So these P's are actually a bit smaller, so you can just drag in from the left and just make them smaller just like that. It might be a little bit too small. So we'll do something like that. So let's see how tall the client section is. So I'll reference this, and the client section is 1000 pixels in height. So I'll go back here, I'll select the client's background, go to the transform panel, set this to 1000. And we also have this other rectangle, so I'll move this down slightly, select the rectangle in the back, and set this to 1000. Alright, so both of those rectangles are set to 1000. I'll place this back here. I'll select the Google map, and I'll use the vertical move handle to bring all those elements down, just like that. And then we'll rearrange these elements here. So I'll just grab those two logos, and then I'll place those logos in the center there. Perfect. And then we have the Contact Us section. I'll just bring this in a little bit more to the left, or to the right, and just like that. So as you can see, it's kind of like piecing a puzzle together. We're using the vertical move handle a lot to create more space within the page, and we're just moving elements around once there's more height to the website. And I'll bring this P's image down here. I'll leave it that size. The shrimp is right there. I could move this up a little bit, maybe like right there, just kind of to work with the design a bit. We removed the entree image because there wasn't enough space for it to fit, and I can also move this nutrition text a bit more to the right so it's not over the salad image there. All right, looks good. And we pinned the About Us to the right, we pinned the chef card to the right, and the good food card to the right as well. Or actually we did that on the 1280 breakpoint. So let's use the breakpoint scrubber and just take a look at how it's looking. So I resize, and just about the 840 breakpoint, it starts to get a bit tight. So it looks good. So as you can see, it's just a matter, of just using the breakpoint scrubber tool and rearranging the responsive pinning. We can see there that the good food and the chef card are a bit tight, and also this text could be moved up a bit. All right, so let's go ahead and preview that in the browser. So I'll go to File, Preview Page in Browser. And here we have it. So I'm resizing. There are changes, and there are changes again. And I might remove this image on the 1280 breakpoint. It feels like it's a little bit too obtrusive there over the text. And the image here, the image looks a bit awkward there. So I might, on the 1280, the 1280 breakpoint, I'll set the responsive pinning to, or the resize option to responsive width and height. Or you can go to the transform panel and set it to responsive width and height. So let's see how that looks. Or actually I'll use the breakpoint scrubber. And let's undo that because the height goes up there. So we'll just leave it to none. So actually we'll just leave this image there. We could remove it on the 1280 breakpoint, but I'll leave it there for now. And this image, let's see, the 960, I'm gonna remove it on the 960 breakpoint. So I'm gonna right click and select hide in breakpoint. And I'll just move this text into the center, and I'll pin it responsively to the center, so it stays relative to the center of the browser. That looks a bit better. Looks good. So you'll remove elements and kind of change the positioning of elements on different breakpoints. All right, so let's go ahead and add the 840 breakpoint, because around the 840, again, it gets a bit tight. And so again, I'm using the breakpoint scrubber and just moving to the left and the right, and it tells you the breakpoint value as well. So the 840, again, it's another Google resizer value, and also the website gets a bit tight at the 840 breakpoint. So I'm going to go to the breakpoint bar, I'm going to right click, select add breakpoint, and I'm going to say 840 for the breakpoint. All right, and as we can see here, this good food box looks a bit, it goes off the page. So I'm just going to center it. So I'm going to hold down shift and center it horizontally. And the chef card as well, I'm going to center it horizontally just like that. And I'm going to bring up this good food text. So let me zoom in a bit. I'm just going to select those elements and bring them up just like that. So let me select those again. Just bring them down a little bit. There we go. All right. So we have that. And then those panels still look okay. But actually what I'm going to do on the 840 breakpoint is align them vertically, like all vertically. And I'll show why I'm doing that in a second. So again, I'm going to go back to the home page. I'm going to reference the 840 breakpoint and just check out the height of the panels. So this panel is 2700 pixels in height, so it's fairly large. So I'm going to go ahead and actually the first thing I'll do is select our blog, bring it all the way down the page, really just a long ways, and I'm going to stretch out this background or select it, go here and say 2700. All right, so now we have this really large panel, and actually I'm gonna hide this background because if we notice, this image gets stretched out way too much and doesn't look good. So I'm gonna right click and I'm gonna say hide in breakpoint. I'm going to go to the rectangle tool and create a rectangle and go to the transform panel, say stretch to browser width, and the height 2700, and the fill, I'm going to say this dark blue color here, so 272A33, just like that. And I'm going to bring it to the top here, right there. I'm going to go to the layers panel, and for section 3 I'm going to take this rectangle and bring it all the way to the bottom of section 3, so the elements are on top of it. Alright, so I'm going a bit quick just to save some time for the video. If you do have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comment section below, but I would have to go fairly quick, otherwise this video would be a bit too long. So here I'm going to click on the third panel and I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to select the second panel and bring it down as well. And the third panel, I'm going to bring it down as well. I'm going to reference this here to make sure that the panel's correct on the Y position. So I'll go back to home. I'll select this panel, and on the Y it's actually 2775. And there we have that. And actually I'll just bring it down a bit there. There we go. All right, so there we have section 3, so that's completed. The elements are down the center. Perfect. All right, so now our blog section, I'll bring this up. And I'll bring the client section down. And let me reference the other website. And the height of this panel is 2500, and yeah, so the height is 2500. So I'll go to the home, to the website we're working on, and I'll set the height of this panel to 2500. All right, and then I'll bring everything down, the button, so I can zoom in a bit. So this, I'll bring it down here, and I'll bring this panel down. And this panel, I'll center it here. Perfect. So we have that section. I could probably move this up a bit. And there we go. Muse gives us these nice guidelines to let us know the distance between each of these elements. I'll bring these P's down here. And again, I'm holding down shift so I don't move the element, left or right, so it stays in its position relative to, or stays in its vertical position. All right, that looks good. And now the client, so I'll move the Google Maps down and let me reference this website. So the client section, the height is, here is 1700. So for this, I'm actually going to hide the image in the background as well, because the image, and actually let me bring this up a little bit, because the image gets a little bit constrained or doesn't look so great. So I'm going to right click and hide in Breakpoint, and I'm going to copy and paste this rectangle, and I'm going to go to fill, change the opacity to 100. All right, so we have this rectangle here. I'm going to click on this rectangle here in the back, right click, and I'm going to say hide in Breakpoint. All right, and I'll bring this rectangle down. There, I'll go to the layers panel here to the right. It's in section 5. So that rectangle, I'm going to bring all the way to the bottom so that the elements are in front. There we go. So we just have this solid blue rectangle. And again, the rectangle is 1700 pixels in height. So I'll go back to the home page, and here I'll set it to 1700 pixels in height. All right, looks good. So actually, let me first bring down the Google Maps. So I'll select the Google Map. I'll go to the vertical move handle and just bring this down. And then I'll go to the rectangle here and I'll say 1700. All right, and then I'll just bring up these elements here. Perfect. All right, so now I'll just select these two elements. Again, I'm holding down shift to select multiple elements. And if I see that I can't align it exactly to the center, I can go to the align panel right up here, make sure it's aligned to content area, and align horizontal centers, just like that. So it'll align it perfectly within the page. And I'll place that there. And there we go, looks good. So there we have the logos. Let me move them up a little bit. Looks good and perfect. All right, again, I'm using those Adobe Muse guidelines to let me know the distance between elements. All right, and here we have the map. The map can stay as it is, and I'll just move it a bit more to the right there, the contact us section here. And that is it. So we also notice here, yeah, that the footer elements don't look right. So we're gonna go to the master page in a second. Let's just check out this section. I'll bring the peas down right here, and the shrimp looks okay there. These elements look good there, and actually that looks okay there, so I'll leave that just like that, and that looks okay, and perfect. The other thing I'm gonna do with these elements here, so here I'm going to, on the 840 breakpoint, I'm on the 840, I'm going to right click, select ungroup, and I'm going to select the rectangle here in the background. I'm going to go to the resize option and set this to responsive width. Okay, so if I resize the page or the browser, that image in the background is resizing as well. I'm also going to do the same with the chef card, so I'm going to right click on the chef card and select ungroup. And here I'll select the rectangle in the background, go to the transform panel, set the resize option to responsive width. Also select the gradient, the advanced gradient, the gradient stroke, go to the resize, set to responsive width. All right, so let's see how that looks. I'm going to resize the browser or the page. So everything looks good. I'm going to pin chef mark to the left, and I'm going to pin this text and this button to the right. It's already pinned to the right, so that looks good. So I'll resize, and perfect. As we can see, those panels in the back are resizing, and the chef is staying to the left and the text is staying to the right. And that good food text is pinned to the left, so it stays relative to the left side, and the images change size. So as we can see, we just made these elements responsive by using the responsive pinning and the resize option, or the responsive width options, and adding it to the image and to the chef card and the stroke here, the gradient stroke as well. All right, it's looking good. And if I resize here, that's also looking good. And as we can see, we have plenty of space to resize and those panels stay in the center. All right, so these are things you just want to look out for. If I were to have left the panels in the position where they were, they would have gone off the page. So what I did at the 840 is I just set it up and aligned it to start working on really small devices, so really small tablet devices and smartphones as well. So again, it's just a matter of using the vertical move handle, adjusting the height of the panels, and moving elements so that they align correctly within that breakpoint. All right, again, if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. I'm going a bit fast just to save some time, and I'm trying to, just go over the key points, which is, moving elements, setting the responsive pinning correctly, and resizing elements when necessary. All right, so we've done that. So if we notice in the footer section, right down here, this does not look right. So let's go to the plan view. Let's go to the master page, and let's go ahead and add those same breakpoints to the master page. So in the breakpoints bar, I'm going to right click, add breakpoint. I'm going to say 1280. I'm going to right click again. I'm going to say 960. And as we can see on the 960 breakpoint, things look a little bit too close. So I'm just going to move them. I'm going to select the social media icons and just move them to the right. And this text, I'm going to move to the left. Perfect. Then I'll right click. I'll add the 840 breakpoint, and that looks great. So 960, so here we have 1600, we have 1280, 960, and 840. And let me change the background so we can see the menu as well. So I'll change it to something like this. So we can see the menu at the 960 breakpoint, the menu is close to the logo. So I'll zoom in here. Yeah, we can see the menu is close to the logo. And at the 840 breakpoint, the logo and the menu, they coincide with each other. So this is where we're going to add the tablet and mobile menu. So on the 840 breakpoint, I'm going to right click and say hide in breakpoint. So we'll hide right there, and we'll also hide this contact button. So I'm going to right click, or actually let me see if I hid that. Let me go to this page and go right up here. Yeah, so we're going to hide the contact button as well. So I'm going to right click and hide in breakpoint. All right, so this is where we're going to add the mobile menu. So to do this, we're going to go to object, and object right up here, go to insert widget, go to menu, and select vertical. Okay, and I'll just place that right in there, and we'll change the height of this a bit here, and I'm going to reference the website here. So let's go here, 840, and so the height of each panel is 37 pixels in height. So I'll go back to the master page here. Let's just make this 37 pixels in height, and the width, so let's see, the width is 180, and the text in here is Montserrat and 13. Okay. So let's go to the master page. We'll change, or we'll add 6 menu items. Yeah, so first click on the menu widget, open the widget options, and for the menu type, select manual. Direction, we want vertical, we want to edit together, and we'll leave uniform size set just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and add 6 menu items. Just like that, and like that. Okay, so we have 6 menu items. So I'm just clicking on the plus symbol below the menu item to add the menu item, and then I'll just rename this here. So I'll say home, and let's see, what do we have here? Home about nutrition, recipes, and clients and contact. All right, and then I'll select the text. I'll go to the text panel. The font is Montserrat, so I'll type in M-O-N-T-S. The size is 13. The text transform is uppercase, and the text alignment is to the left. Perfect. All right, so the color of the menu items is, so I'll go to the fill option right up here, is this kind of pink color here. So there we go. So let me go to the master page here, and that looks good. And let's see if there's any states. Yeah, so the rollover state. So let me go back to the master page. So I'll select the menu item. So I'll select one menu item, and they're all edited together because in the widget options we have edit together set. So I've selected this first menu item. So I'll go to the states panel here to the upper left, and I'll select rollover, and then for the fill I'll set it to this peach color, and for the mouse down I'll also set it to this peach color, and for the active I'll set it to the pink color. All right, there we go. And I'll make this a bit taller, just like that. Maybe even a bit taller. Okay. All right, so now that we've added the menu, we want to go ahead and add an accordion panel. So I'll go to Object, Insert Widget, and I'll insert a panel, and I'll select Accordion. Yep, just like that. I'll place it anywhere, and I want to delete the second and third panel or tab. So I'll select the second, select delete, select the third, and select delete. And then I'll select this text box in here by clicking twice, delete the text box, and I'll place the menu within there, within the first tab. So now if I close the tab, and yeah, so if I close it, and you want to go into the widget options and select can close all, just like that. So if I click on the tab, it closes the menu. If I open it, it opens. Perfect. And I'll make this a bit smaller, just like this. So you can play around with this and just kind of get it to your liking. Yep, looks good. And I'm going to go ahead and delete the text in there. And I'm going to go to my Finder, I'm going to go to Assets, select the tablet mobile menu button, .svg. I'm going to click, hold, and drag, place into Muse, and I'm going to place it within the panel right here, just like that. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and change the color. So I'm going to select the tab right up here. I'm going to go to the active state, click on normal, set it to none. Then I'll click on rollover, set it to none. I'll click on active and set it to none. And also the stroke, set it to 0. So normal, set the stroke to 0, rollover. Okay, looks good. So there's no states to that tab and no color. All right, and then we have the menu button. Looks like it still has a stroke to it. Yeah, so let's see. No, it shouldn't have a stroke. So let me click on here. I also want this to be transparent, so fill set to none and stroke to 0. And rollover, mouse down, active, okay. All right, so there's still a border. There we go. So select the entire widget, go to stroke and set it to 0. All right, perfect. So there we have the button and the menu. Looks good. So I'm actually going to place the button behind the menu. So I'm going to click on the accordion widget, right click, arrange, bring to front, and there we have it. So let's see how that looks. I'm gonna go ahead and close it. If you click once on this area, it'll close it. If you click again, it'll open it. And just make sure can close all is selected, and initially have it closed so that this menu starts off closed. So now I'll go to File, Preview Page, and Browser, and I'll resize, and there we have the menu. Okay, so one thing we notice is that this menu button is resizing. So I'm going to go to the Layers panel, I'm going to go to the header section and select that image, go to the resize option and set to none, so it shouldn't be resizing. So let's see, it's this image right here. So resize, set to none. And I also want to pin it. So yeah, let me select it here. I want to pin it to the right. So this image of the menu button is pinned to the right and it's not resizing, just like that. So let me open this again. I also want to make sure that the menu is aligned with the button. Perfect. And I'll pin this whole accordion to the right as well, so it stays relative to the right of the browser. So I selected the whole accordion widget and pinned to the right of the browser. Okay, and I'll close it again. And let me select that menu button again. So here within the layers panel, it's this image frame here. And I'm going to right click, or here I'll move, or better yet, let me bring it to the front. And I'll right click. So now I can select it because before it was behind the accordion widget. So here I'm going to right click and select hide and other breakpoints, because I don't want this menu to be on the 960, 1280, or 1600 breakpoint. And also with the accordion widget, I'll select the entire widget, right click, and select hide and other breakpoints. Perfect, and that should do it. So that's it for the menu. Again, I'm going to select this image, go to layers, and bring it behind the accordion widget. So before it was above it, I want it to be below it. So we're first selecting the accordion widget there. So let me close it. Perfect. So I'll go to File, Preview Page in Browser. And if I click, there we have the menu. I can select it and it looks good. All right, so we're on the master page. So I'm gonna go to the home page, and I'm gonna go to File, Preview Page in Browser. And I'll resize it there. So here we can see, once we get to the 840 breakpoint, right there the menu is going over the logo. And shortly after, we go to the mobile menu, the tablet and mobile menu. Looks good. All right, we also noticed that this text is a bit too large. This title text, the Eat Healthy, Feel the Power of Healthy Food, is a bit too large. So I'm gonna go back into the 840 breakpoint. And let me just reference the first one here. And the text size for this on the 840 is 48. So let me go back here. I'll select this text, go to the transform panel and change it to 48. Perfect. All right, and I think the sentence here is still at 16. So let me just select this and 16, perfect. So again, we'll preview one more time in the browser. File, Preview Page in Browser. And I'll scroll down, or let's see. So there we have it. It fits nicely. Eat Healthy. So we can see the text changes across on that breakpoint, gets a bit smaller. And we have the good food background, the chef card changes size. So as you can see, we've made, oh, let me change the background here back to white. So the browser fill, I'm on the master page and I just set it back to white. Let's go back here, go to the home page, preview page in browser. So I know I'm going kind of fast, and I'm just kind of sharing my own thought process as I'm building it. If I were to spend, each time explaining everything in detail, this would be a very long video. But again, you can reference the website within the course folder, and if you're stuck on anywhere, just look at where the element is placed. Even in the layers panel, you can look at the size of the element, you can look at what type of widget it is. Like for the accordion widget, you can look at it and see that it's the accordion widget, and you can look at the properties of all these elements within the site. This is just me sharing my thought process as I'm building the site, and hopefully give you some insight as to what I do, or the different tools you can use in Adobe Muse to rearrange elements and to make it responsive and work on different breakpoints. Okay, so one other thing I noticed is that we have this panel here. So let me go back here. We want to right click on this rectangle we created, right click and select hide in other breakpoints. There we go. And the same with this panel here. Right click, hide and other breakpoints. All right, so this should be the last time we preview. File, preview page in browser. All right, there we go. So there's the 840 breakpoint. We have the tablet and mobile menu. And looks good. Looks good. Everything is nicely down the center. And the panel's there too as well. Perfect. So it's going to be really easy for us to add the mobile breakpoints because everything's already aligned down the center. So we just need to change, add the mobile breakpoints and we'll be good to go. One thing you might notice is that this menu is below this text. So a quick fix for that, we'll go to the plan view, we'll go to the master page and just create a rectangle. So select the rectangle tool, make sure in the layers panel, you're in the header layer and create a rectangle in the header, just like that. Then we'll go back to the layers panel and place that rectangle below, all the way at the bottom actually, just place it all the way at the bottom. And that should fix the menu going below the text. So I'll go to File, Preview Page in browser. And if I click, perfect. Now that menu is above the text. So I'll go over a quick overview. Just create a rectangle in the header on the 840 breakpoint right up here, and make sure you're in the header section or the header layer, and place that rectangle way at the bottom, and that's it. And then you can also hide that rectangle on other breakpoints. So you can right click and select hide and other breakpoints, because we don't need that rectangle on the 960 or the 1280 or the 1600 breakpoint. All right, so I think that's it for day 11. If you've stuck through, congratulations. Again, this might take maybe a day or two to finish because I did go over quite a bit. We added the 1280 breakpoint, the 960 and the 840, and we added the tablet and mobile menu, and we've changed the responsive pinning for a few of these elements, and we removed a few elements just to make some space for the main elements on those different breakpoints. And we adjusted the height of these different sections, and we used the vertical move handle to move elements down the website to create more space for those different sections on the different breakpoints. All right, so I would say just practice with this and stick with it. Even if something's not working, just stick with it and start working with the responsive pinning and the resize options in Adobe Muse. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comment section below. So last time, preview page in browser. And so we have the 1280. Let me go here to this tool so we can see it. We have 1600. We go down to 1280, and then we get to the 840 breakpoint. We have the mobile menu, tablet and mobile. And this section we worked with a bit. We set the image and the background and the gradient stroke to responsive width. So as we can see, it gets smaller as I resize the browser. And I pin shift mark to the left and the text here to the right. And as we go down, looks good, good, yep, good, and good. And the footer we adjusted a bit as well. All right, so tomorrow we're going to be adding the mobile breakpoints. So that's it for day 11 and the tablet breakpoints and the tablet and mobile menu. So tomorrow is day 12 and we'll be adding the mobile breakpoints.
Muse for you, awesome websites without code.